At some point or the other in our lives, we've all encountered that one person who made us feel small, irrelevant, and unworthy. How would you react to change the trajectory of that impact that that person may have had in your life? And sometimes we just have to become the director of our own stories by owning it and then taking it in the direction that will lead us to success. Amy Lee Kaiser has just done that. Don't go away. We'll introduce her as soon as we come back.
You have a story that is unique, a story that needs to be heard, a story that people care about. So it can get them to stand up for what they believe in. It can inspire them to change. It can inspire them to take action. It can inspire them to care. Care enough to be the light to someone's darkness. Care enough to extend a helping hand to someone who's down and out. Care enough to call things the way they are and see them for what they could be. Your story can make a difference. Your story can save a life. Your story matters. One story changed the entire world. Your story could do the same. All you've got to do is own your story.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Books with Bridgetti. I am your host, Bridgetti Lynda from Cape Town in South Africa. Our live stream is made possible by StreamYard and BeLive Media. And a special warm welcome to you, our viewers, whether you're watching us on Amazon Live, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter. It is an audience-centric show, so the comments are being monitored. Say hello, tell me if you're new, and we'll give you a shout out. And in today's show, we're going to be talking to Amy Lee Kaiser about her amazing story. And bonus, the book that she's a contributing author in is being launched like right now, this minute, as we speak. And if you're watching us on Amazon Live, it is right there in the carousel. I am so excited. This is amazing. This is amazing. Lynda Sunshine West is the author of the book. And Amy Lee Kaiser is one of the contributing authors, and we're going to share her story. But before I introduce Amy, one of the most powerful things that we can do to take charge of our story is to embrace live video. But in order to do so successfully, we do need just a few things. So if you're watching on Amazon, you will notice that in the carousel, I've added a few things in there that can help you build a home studio. I live with chronic back and neck pain, for example. And so for me, that starts with having a great chair that supports your spine, having a functional desk, having good audio, because if people can't hear you, they will tune out. And then also having an external webcam or DSLR if you can afford one, a computer that can handle streaming software well, and earphones to avoid sound feedback. So again, if you're just joining us, welcome. You're watching Books with Bridgetti, and our guest today is Amy Lee Kaiser. Amy is a contributing author in the anthology called the Fearless Entrepreneurs, and her chapter is called Stand Up for Your Beliefs. She's got a great story. Amy's worked in the medical field since the age of 17, first as a certified nursing assistant, and then a licensed practical nurse. Amy is also a pelvic health specialist and the owner of Soul Healing Bodywork and Wellness Center. Amy believes that we have been taught to ignore, shame, and even hate the very part of our body that houses our power. And she believes that we need to change that. So let's invite Amy onto the show, shall we? Amy, welcome to the show. I am so excited and so delighted that you are here today, that we could do the show today. I have interviewed a couple of the other contributing authors um, in the book, The Fearless Entrepreneurs by Lynda Sunshine West, but today is special. It's
It
special
is.
because it's book launch day.
Yes, it is.
Wow, wow, what an absolute privilege to be able to talk to you on this day when the book is finally out there. It's available on Amazon, it's in the carousel. Um, and wow, I just, Amy, I just love your story. I love how you have um taken the lemons in your life and turned it into lemonade. Um, and just before we started, I was telling you the story of this now three-time author, an award-winning author who used to stand at the traffic lights, begging people to help him, and now he's a successful author. And sometimes we've just got to be our own champions. You
Right.
know, what was it that um was it sort of like a light bulb moment when you realized you could become your own champion, and that what other people say about you um is irrelevant? You're not going to allow that to get to you.
I'm not really sure that there was one specific point, but I just realized that, no one else is going to do it. No one else is going to do it. So, and it's not even necessarily anyone else's responsibility, actually. You have to rise and, when other people can help you along the way, but at the end of the day, you have to do the work. And so I think it was just many instances where I felt not heard, where I felt dismissed, where I felt unimportant. And I was just, I just said to myself, this is not going to happen anymore. I have to be louder. And so I became louder.
Isn't it weird how that happens? Just finding your voice and realizing you have a voice and that your voice matters. um
Absolutely.
be- because sometimes we
Especially in the
allow.
realm that I work in, the area that I work in specifically, because women are just not listened to, even when it comes to their very own health. Even when we go and try to say this is happening to us, we're still dismissed, and they make us think that we're crazy, and so I had to become my own champion and my own voice, and also use my voice for other women until they can use their own.
Isn't it amazing how the in life women are the nurturers. They're the caretakers of the family, and yet in the health and wellness space, in the medical space, women are dismissed.
Right.
I cannot make sense of that. I had Christine on the Dr. Christine on the show on Saturday,
Right.
and she was relating how when she walked into the ward, she was the doctor and she had male nurses in her team. But when she walked into the ward, people would assume that one of the male nurses was the doctor and she was the nurse, simply because she was a woman. And it's
Right.
same thing happens in the boardroom. And so we have to learn to find our voices. So tell us a
Absolutely.
little bit about your journey, going from being a nurse to where you are now. I think there's a lot of synergy
Right.
in what you've done, but just walk us through a little bit of your
Right.
journey.
Well, and so I actually have a bachelor's degree in high school English education. And then when I couldn't get a job, I decided to go back to school for nursing. And now I'm a teacher and a healer. So I've always been trying to be a teacher and a healer. I just had to find the correct path in which to do that. Um, and really, I was starting to shift from the medical into the more natural. Really, it took me on a journey. My own path took me on a journey of self-healing, because I was in an unhappy marriage. I was depressed. I had anxiety, And I wanted to help myself heal in a more natural way, because being a nurse, I just had this fear that if I went on medication, I would never be able to come off. And I had taken care of so many residents in nursing homes that had been on these psych meds for decades. And I didn't want to look like that, at the end of my life, quite frankly. And so I sought out meditation and counseling, and the counselor led me to Reiki and more spiritual side of things. And it really just resonated with me. And I just took off. I got my Reiki master. I went back to school for massage therapy. And then a couple years into that career, I decided to take the pelvic health training. And that really put me into a completely different trajectory and opened my eyes up to so much that I had never even thought of before. Because when we don't work in that realm, it's not in our face. We don't think about it if we've never experienced it or know somebody who's experienced it. And there's so much about the pelvis that we just don't talk about.
And yet that's where we all come from.
Absolutely. It all starts there.
I love the fact that you say, it's our powerhouse.
It is.
And we need to take care of that.
Right.
Because if we ignore it, it's going to have bad results on our health, and future generations. What made you fall in love with pelvic health?
Well, initially I took the training because it was a way to help couples conceive naturally. And I had known several people in my life, family members and friends and acquaintances, who struggle with fertility. And I have 3 children, and I was able to get pregnant very easily. I had great pregnancies. I did have to have C-sections with all my kids, but I just thought if I could help people do this more naturally and save some money and not have to pump their bodies so full of drugs, that would be so cool. But then when I took the training, I was literally probably an hour into the training, and I just thought, this is so much bigger than natural conception. This is so much bigger, because I understand energy. I've been working in the energy realm for many years before I took the pelvic training. So I understand masculine, feminine. I understand the energy of trauma. And I just thought, wow, these first 3 chakras of our body, the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus, energetically speaking, that's where all of our humanness is. That's where our feminine powerhouse is. That's where creation comes from. That's where all the aspects of our humanness and our human life is housed. And if that is full of trauma and fear and shame and guilt and hatred, how can we go forward living, happy, abundant, joyful, peaceful, lovely lives when we literally hate part of our body, and when our society quite literally teaches us to hate our body unless it's being used to please a man? And then, that's still obviously not fulfilling for us. And it just launched it into something so much bigger, because then I started a podcast, and then I'm listening to all of these stories from around the world, and like country after country and ethnicity after ethnicity. And where I'm hearing the same things of women not being heard and not being listened to, women's healthcare being dominated by male doctors who can never fully understand what we go through. And there are amazing male doctors, but they're never going to be able to tell me what it's like to be raped. But I know they're never going to tell me what it's like to lose a baby. But I know they can help you through it, but they can't tell you how it feels. And that's what we need.
Amy, when I spoke to Dr. Christine on Saturday, she raised the same thing. She's a trained medical doctor.
Right.
Her husband was a professional person as well. I think he was also a doctor, and he committed suicide. she had not one, but 2 attempted suicides.
Yeah.
She had to check herself into a mental facility.
Hmm.
And, as a trained medical doctor, that
Right.
was a huge thing to
Right.
need to do. And she says, being in a mental health facility and having to use bathrooms with no locks on, she said was quite a humbling experience. And
Right.
then being in bed and having, relying on other people to clean you when you can't do that yourself. She said, as a doctor, it was really hard for her, but it also made a switch in her. She's since immigrated to Canada. She's happily married. um, you know, Things changed for her. She came a long way, but she is now able to treat her patients with so much more empathy. Having been on the other side
Absolutely.
is completely different. Once you've had that experience yourself, and like you said, there are phenomenal male doctors who work in the space of women's health, but there's not a chance that they would ever be able to go through these experiences and have the
Right.
empathy component.
Right.
That is something, um, you know, no textbook can teach you. And whatever it
Right.
is, whatever struggle you have in life, you can't learn empathy from a textbook.
No.
You know,
And so oftentimes, one of the quotes that I always say is, if you're not being heard, you're not being helped. And I tell people, if your doctor doesn't know the answers, but they are at least listening, and they can check their ego enough to the point where they can say, you know what, I hear you, I can't help you, let's find someone who can. That is such a gift right there, because we can't expect one kind of medical practitioner to take care of our whole body. So we need collaboration. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a trained nutritionist, but there is a huge component that I help with that is always being missed. And that's the energy and emotional piece and the connection of that to our physical health. So even if your doctor doesn't know the answers, if they're willing to hear you, and if they're willing to say, I can't help you, but let's find out someone who can, that right there you're already ahead of the game in a lot of ways.
that is absolutely massive. What you're saying there is being collaborative, and unfortunately there are really good doctors there. There are great doctors. There are phenomenal doctors, but there are a percentage of doctors out there who have a god complex, for want of a better description,
Sure.
and who dismiss their patients, who tell them it's in their head, or
Yes.
they're imagining their pain. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So
Right.
I know what it feels like to be dismissed. Or, you kind of look at the person across the desk, and you can almost see they're thinking, this chick is nuts, is what they're thinking. They're not saying it, but you can
Right.
you can read you can read their
Um,
minds. You can
yeah.
see that is what they're thinking, and that they're dismissing you. And
Hmm.
there's nothing worse than sitting across a desk from someone who thinks that you're a hypochondriac, but they've never experienced what you experience.
Right.
It can drive you nuts. So how did you meet Lynda and become part of this amazing project called the Fearless Entrepreneurs?
So I actually met Lynda through Lois Kofi, who is also in the book, and also a fearless entrepreneur. I met Lynda through her, and Lynda just has such a bright energy. I mean, Lynda Sunshine West, she does. She has a bright, sunny personality, and her energy is great, and she's authentic. And she tries so hard. When you work with Lynda is one of those people who is going to like over deliver every time. I'm getting emails from her all the time for interview opportunities. And I was like, whoa, this is so wild. I mean, I signed up with her because of her, and because I had an important story to tell. And I I have written and published books before, but they're children's books, so it's a little bit of a different realm. And I thought the collaboration book would be an awesome start, and it has not
Yeah,
disappointed.
absolutely not. And I want to give Lynda an absolute shout out. She, as you said, Lynda is an amazing woman. She's very inspirational. She's got a crazy, amazing story, and I can't wait to get her onto the show
Yeah.
as well. Lynda inspires people wherever she goes. And I want to give a shout out to Lillian watching from Switzerland. Um, Lillian herself is an amazing woman. She teaches people how to become financially independent, because that's an important component of
Yeah.
of life and of being a woman. We bring children into the world. We have to raise them, and so many. I mean, I see in Africa, for example, we have a huge army of grandmothers who are raising their grandchildren because the mothers and fathers have either died or they're sick or something. And these women, shout out, it's Women's Month. Shout out to all the women out there, the mothers out there, who are doing an amazing job of educating the next generation. And some of them do it with little to no resources, but somehow they find a way of doing it. And that's part of being a fearless entrepreneur. You may not carry the flag of a fearless, but that's what embodies a fearless entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and
um,
I wanted to clarify because like the title of the book is The Fearless Entrepreneur, but if you look under, the tagline is fear less and do more. So we're not fearless in the way that we don't have fear.
right.
We are afraid, but we do it anyway because
Regardless,
we have to. And it's just about fearing less. And I always say a little bit of fear is good because that lets you know you're going in the right direction. If you're a little bit afraid of your goal, then you know it's good enough, you know? So just fear less and just do it anyway.
I like that, and that's always been Linda's mantra. That's why
Mhm.
she wrote that first book, The Year of Fears. Um,
Yeah.
so if you're fearing something, do it anyway. I think she says that. She actually says that. She says if you fear it, do it anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Um, I think I've heard her say that a dozen times or more even. And so you're absolutely spot on. Don't let fear um, drive you away. And this is something Dr. Christine mentioned as well on Saturday when I spoke to her. And she says, just work through the thing. At the bottom line is we're all humans
Right.
anyway. There really is no difference between us, except maybe our level of education. But beyond that, there really is there's absolutely no difference. So why are we so afraid of each other? It really makes no sense. Why do we stand in judgment of each other so much?
Well,
It
it all
makes
it
no
all
sense.
right. Well, and everything is internal, right? So when we're judging others, then we are probably that's what we don't like about ourselves to some kind of degree. So for me, when I become afraid or I look to see where is this fear actually coming from? What about this am I actually afraid of? Am I really afraid of doing this thing or is it something else I'm afraid of? Or if I feel like I'm being judgmental towards someone else, I stop and look and say, okay, is this a real thing? Is this my ego? Is there an aspect, am I being judgmental or is this just my experience? So I just learned to really, instead of immediately looking outside of myself, I immediately look inside of myself, and that's how you grow faster.
Amy, so if someone's in your position right now, they're finding themselves in a situation where they feel um, trapped and not encouraged, what would you want to say to them?
I would say that everything you need to know about life is already inside of you. So you need to know that you're given an intuition or that gut feeling for a reason. So learn to trust it. Learn to trust your intuition because it's going to get you out of every situation or into every situation that you either don't want to be in or you do want to be in. But first, you've got to learn to trust your intuition.
And I think a lot of us make that mistake, isn't it? We second guess ourselves.
Oh, terribly, terribly.
Or we always think that we're not good enough, and it's a lot of it to me has got to do with internal messaging, and
Yes.
some of it's got to do with the way that we grew up, the environment in which we grew up. If you grew up in an environment where people constantly told you, you're not good enough, you're stupid. I don't know why that is such a thing, that
Yeah.
that people have the need to tell other people they're stupid.
That's how they feel about themselves.
you
I mean,
know
that's truly it. That's truly it.
I the more I talk to people, the more people I come across who had that kind of internal messaging as well, is that it's people around them telling them that they're stupid, that they can't do
Right.
things.
Yeah.
And so you have to change that messaging and say, I can do this. I'm not ugly. I'm attractive. I'm not unlovable. I am lovable. I can give love. Just turning all those messages on their heels. But it does take some work. It doesn't
It
come
does.
overnight either,
Right. And there's always layers to it. I mean, I've been doing this work for a long time and I feel very healed. I feel so good. And then, depending on the energy of the time or maybe whatever, where I'm at in my cycle, sometimes something will hit me at just the right time. And it's just like, oh man, here's another layer that I get to release right now because this doesn't feel good. So,
And just learning to recognize that when we feel less than, that those are triggers that come from outside sources generally.
right.
And just trying to understand that just because someone else says something about us doesn't make it true, and we don't have to internalize those external messages, and that we can develop our own internal messaging and reinforce the good parts, because if we don't do that, we're going to become stuck.
Well, and I did not come up with this, but I don't remember where I read it. But it was a meme or something, and it said, other people's opinion of you is none of your business, and it's also incomplete because people don't know all aspects of you. They just know one part, and we're not meant to mesh with every single person that we meet. We're not meant to work with every single person that we network with. So it's okay that people leave your life. Those things are okay. And yeah, just that internal energy.
Yeah, it's you've got to sort of, I always feel that you've got to stop when somebody says something untrue about you or nasty about you. I always feel you've got to sort of stop and say, hang on a second, is that really true?
Right.
Where's that coming from? Why is that person saying so? Are they projecting onto you? And 9 times out of 10, it is really that someone's projecting, and
Right.
that it's not really a truth. But I want to ask for a minute, how did you turn, it's one thing being passionate about something. How did you turn your passion into a business? Because that's what you run now. You're running a business.
Yes. Yes. I have a brick and mortar business and I also see clients virtually. Um, I was a nurse in a nursing home and doing my massage training, and I had already been doing energy work. I knew I was going to leave my ex-husband, and I didn't want to be a nurse anymore because when you're a nurse, you don't have control over your schedule. And I wanted to be very available for my kids. So that was initially why I started my business. Um, and because in nursing, we were very micromanaged also. And I wanted to be able to be free to heal people in a more natural way. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to start my own business because there's no other way that I can get the schedule that I want if I don't. So that's why I did that.
I must admit, it's one of the things that I have loved about, I mean, there's a lot of things that are sad about the pandemic and COVID and everything else. But one of the good things to me that's come out of COVID is that it's freed up a lot more people. And I'm saying people, not just women, because there are men that are mothers to their children as well.
Sure.
So it's freed us up to spend more time with our families, work
Hmm.
around our families, and it's taught us that we can marry the two, that we can be successful at both.
Right.
Um, and I believe it's created opportunities for people who otherwise may have been excluded from the workforce, because the previous thinking was that you couldn't be in a job unless you were sitting your bum on a seat
Right.
in a corporate environment. And
Sure.
COVID has taught us that that thinking is, for the most part, incorrect. Um, if you've got an internet connection at home, unless you're doing, work that requires manual labor, almost every other job can be done remotely. And you had people with mental health issues before who used to struggle in a corporate environment, but they can work very well from their home office. So we've made, I feel, that the workplace has become a more inclusive space. COVID has taught us that that is okay, and that we can be successful working remotely. Sure, there are challenges, but it's also opened up doors and opportunities, and we should celebrate those.
Yeah. I actually just celebrated 7 years in business on July 7th. So,
Congratulations.
but yeah, since COVID has hit, I did obviously start doing things virtually. I've created new programs and I started the podcast. So that I've already had the podcast for a year, which is amazing. So,
Wow, congratulations.
yeah,
What's your podcast called, Amy?
it's called Women's Pelvis Wellness.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And
Yeah.
I love that if one gets into this kind of space and online, if it was not for this technology, you and I would not be sitting across from each other. I feel like we're having a cup of tea.
Right. Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, I have met so many amazing men and women from across the globe. It's been a phenomenal ride using technology. And it's why I encourage people, switch on your camera. Don't hide behind, don't be a keyboard warrior online.
Right.
Switch on your camera, show your face, and connect with people in the absence of being able to be with each other physically. um, if your camera is on and if you position yourself well, people can still look into your eyes and make a connection with
Right.
you. So harness that opportunity that you have to make a connection. I have not once, I've self-isolated since the start of COVID. And I can honestly tell you, Amy, I have never felt alone or lonely, really, because I'm online virtually every single day.
Right.
I'm talking to people. I don't have the opportunity to feel lonely or alone. Um, and it doesn't even have to be like in a live stream like this. Call up your friends and do a video call.
Right.
Don't do voice calls. Do video calls. Connect with people. You know,
Yeah.
we've got the technology. Use it.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been doing a lot of that. And also too, as an entrepreneur, it's helped me kind of think more nationally and globally about pricing and programming offerings, because I live in central Wisconsin, which is, I mean, it's a pretty, tight knit, conservative minded community. And the work that I do, you have to be pretty open minded for some of it. So this has allowed me to expand in those areas as well, which has been incredible. And now I have like an international referral network. If a woman is struggling with a certain issue, I can say, well, I interviewed someone for my podcast. Let me link you up with them. Here's the podcast episode. So,
Absolutely. And Lillian hits the
yeah,
nail on the head there. She says, we've been able to do virtual traveling. We've met people from around the globe. and we can do business without walls. What COVID has done for us is
Right.
that we can extend our business globally without the expense of traveling.
Sure. Yeah.
um, we have the technology to do business with anyone anywhere in the world. And so instead of being limited to your brick and mortar business and relying on people that's passing by or people that saw your advert, um, you can now do business with anyone anywhere, and that's just been phenomenal. So congratulations on your 7th year.
Thank you.
Congratulations for being a part of Lynda's collaboration book, The Fearless Entrepreneurs. And just to reiterate, as you mentioned earlier, being a fearless entrepreneur is not the absence of fear, but it's having fear and doing it anyway.
Yes, it is. And the book is launching right now, so you can go get one.
The book is launching right now, right now, right now. So it's in the carousel. I've highlighted the book in the carousel. Go and grab a copy of The Fearless Entrepreneurs. We've had a couple of the contributing authors on the show, and we're going to cycle through almost all of them. And every single story so far has been amazing. It's been inspirational. They're real life stories. This is not a novel.
Right.
It's stories that people have lived through, and I love that we have the ability to share, and it's it's making oneself vulnerable, but that's part of who we are and what we are. And the more you share, the more you realize that there are other people that are similar to you, and you discover it's like a journey of discovery when you publish and you write your story, and you discover there are other people. I'm not alone. It's not just me.
Right. And it's incredibly healing too. Every time you write your story, a version of your story, you're releasing more. And also, you know, y- your story is going to resonate and help someone else heal. Whether you believe that or not, it's true. So if as you're healing yourself, others are being healed too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if we can have that mindset that our story can heal someone else, then we'd be less scared of sharing. and
Yeah,
and as they say, sharing is caring, and it absolutely is true. We never know how our story may impact someone else.
right.
Everyone, because I don't know why it is, but somehow we always feel no one in the world can relate to me, no one has ever had a similar experience. But the more we share, the more we realize, but there are other people who's had similar struggles, similar challenges, and it just tells someone else, if Amy could do it, I can do it too. I don't
Well, what
have to feel
usually is
so alone.
happening is people think that their story is not significant enough. Their story isn't important enough. Who's going to listen to little old them? And that is the exact reason why you need to write that dang story, because you
Mm,
should be listened to. Your story is needed. You are important. Your life and experiences are important. Everything is relative, and you should never compare yourself to someone else because they're on a completely different path than you. So
absolutely.
live your life and continue to heal and continue to elevate. And I mean, all you really need to focus on is you. Obviously, if you have other obligations, you need to take care of other obligations, but those other things in your life are going to fall into place better, and or you will be able to handle adversity better when you are healed and you're living your true path and you're authentically you. And someone needs to hear that story.
Absolutely. Amy, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you
And
for
again,
having me.
a big pleasure. Again, just a huge big shout out to Lynda Sunshine West. And Lynda, congratulations on the launch of The Fearless Entrepreneurs. It is an amazing book. And again, it's not about not having fear, it's not the absence of fear, but it's pushing through the fear and doing it regardless. Go and get a copy of the book. It is full of real life stories. It's not a novel, it's real life stories. Amy, thank you so much for stopping by. Enjoyed chatting to you, and I wish you well on your entrepreneurial journey as you continue.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's been wonderful.
Big pleasure. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Almost 3 billion people and counting are consuming video content on their devices. BeLive Media helps brands position their products and services to people at a time and manner that's convenient to them. If you would like to reach your customers and clients and stay ahead of your competitors, then connect with us.